Hi guys, and welcome to A Dog's Soul, an empath's guide to your dog's feelings. Have you ever wondered what your dog needs to be happy and safe and relaxed in your day-to-day life? Today we're going to talk about basic and personal needs of our dogs. So stay tuned and have fun. Alright, so let's start with basic needs. Basic needs are pretty much the same as for us. Food, water, shelter. So our dogs need to be well fed, they need to have enough water available, and they have to feel safe in their environment. Now, the first two, I'm pretty sure, are a given with your dog. The last one can be tricky because if we adopt a fearful dog, getting that dog to feel safe is a challenge. It can be really hard, and sometimes it even takes medical assistance from a behavior vet to get the dog to a point where he can start learning and where he can really start feeling safe and start taking some place in his new home as his relaxation zone. And of course, we have to provide him with something like that. So what is done very often is that people use a crate and they put the dog in the crate, close the crate, and leave, so the dog cannot destroy anything in the house. But what that does is it makes the crate from a relaxation zone to a prison, and it destroys all the relaxation, even if it has been built up beforehand. So if we want to use a crate for relaxation purposes and to give our dogs a space where nobody bothers him and where he can really feel safe and secure, we have to leave the door open all times, except maybe in the car. And we have to connect this new space with relaxation. And that can look very different for every dog. It depends on what the dog likes. Some dogs like massages and getting petted and touched and cuddled, except for our human overwhelming actions we sometimes do, like really hugging the dog and stuff like that. No dog likes that. But soft petting or massages or telling them work, very often dogs like that. Maybe not in the beginning if we're talking about a very fearful or very excited dog, but later on. In the beginning, what often helps is something to lick or chew. Most of the time, one works better than the other to relax our dogs, so we have to just try it out and see what our dogs like best. And some dogs just want to lie close to us and not be touched and not do anything, but just lie close to us. And that's okay too. All of these things can be done in a relaxation zone, and that relaxation zone can look, again, very different for every dog. It can be a bed, it can be a dog bed, it can be a room, it can be a crate, it can be everything. The most important thing is that this space is really something the dog can feel safe in. So no strangers go near that space. Depending on how fearful the dog is or how uncomfortable the dog is with strangers, a room is a better choice than just a bed. But if the dog is technically fine with strangers but just wants his own space to feel relaxed, a dog bed in the living room can work fine as well. And in this space, no uncomfortable things happen. So the dog is not dragged out of there, and we don't bring overwhelming or uncomfortable things to him. Like I don't know, we don't start trimming his nails when he's in his relaxation zone, because otherwise he wouldn't let us. That's destroying the relaxation zone. So it's really a place where only good things happen and only relaxing things happen, at least in the beginning. And what's important for our dogs to feel safe beside that zone is that they can predict what's going to happen. So we have to watch our moods more or less depending on how fearful the dog is, or at least the dog has to have some escape opportunity. So, for example, if we live together with somebody else and there are arguments going on, even in the best relationships, there are arguments once in a while, it's a good idea to take those arguments outside or away from the dog. Same with kids, right? They don't have to watch us fight. And the more sensitive and the more fearful our dogs are, the more they need a really mellow, tranquil environment. And that includes our humans and ourselves, right? So this also means we have to refrain from using any kind of punishments or corrections with our dogs, either in day-to-day life or in training, because that is something that really damages not only the relationship, but also how safe the dog feels in his own home or on walks, depending on where it's done. So if we want our dogs to really feel safe and secure, we have to make a decision to work with methods based on positive reinforcement. We can never avoid punishment completely. That's not possible, because punishment also comes from the environment sometimes. But if we make that decision, we ourselves will do everything to avoid using any punishing tool or method. And that's a huge step for our dogs. And if we have those basic needs taken care of, and you see, this is not necessarily an easy task. The more easygoing a dog is, the more easy that task is. Because if we have a dog who is actually pretty well adapted, they can feel safe even if we have a construction site at our home. But if we have a fearful rescue dog, their sense of safety can be destroyed by just a fork falling down on tiles and it makes a noise, right? So depending on the personality of the dog, we have to put more effort in that or less effort in that. And again, if we have a very fearful dog and we see that dog gets upset by something and his sense of safety is a little bit damaged, we have to work on it again first. We always have to put the basic needs first. They are most important. That's why they are called basic. So if that's all taken care of, we can go to the individual needs. And those can be different even more, depending on how the dog's personality is and what breed the dog is, because our dogs were bred to do something, and that is almost always a need for them. For example, if we have a herding breed like a Sheltie, they were bred to use a part of their natural hunting behavior to herd our livestock. And sometimes this need comes up in different situations in day-to-day life, and we almost never want it, right? So if we have a Sheltie who is trying to herd the kids down the street, or trying to chase after every rabbit, because we can never forget that herding is actually hunting. So those breeds are also often very interested in wildlife. And if we don't give them an outlet for that, it can cause problems. That doesn't mean that we can just let the Sheltie herd the kids down the street, even if they are not our kids. We cannot let him do that. But we can do something like nose work that is not exactly the same, but it is part of the hunting chain as well. So some dogs really go for that substitute very well. Other dogs need that chasing aspect. So we can do some stalking games with treats or with the toy. In between, not too much, because throwing and chasing stuff very often is addictive for our dogs, because they get very aroused and very excited, and if we do things like that, we have to put a real effort in getting them down afterwards. So at least double the time we throw stuff, we have to spend on cool down. So I'd not do some 1 hour ball game thing, but something like we do nose work for 10 minutes, and the last repetition is a stalking game. So they can watch a treat while it moves, and then I throw the treat and they can hop after. Then we do some scatter, and then it's done. Or what Sammy really likes to do, he is a Sheltie mix or an Aussie mix. I'm not 100% sure, but something like that. And what he likes to do is, after a tricky situation, so something where he had to really contain himself, he likes to let out energy, to blow off steam. And he likes to do that with chasing a ball. But to get his arousal level down after, we throw the ball one time and he gets to chase it and then run around with it. I'm not expecting him to bring that ball back to me. He can just run around with it. And he does that. He loves it. He really enjoys just blowing off steam that way. And after that, when he stops running with the ball and he drops the ball, we do some scattering treats, and he can pick up treats and maybe even do a search game after, so he can really calm down. Or another example, if we have a livestock guardian breed or a guardian breed in general, they often like to watch stuff. So if we try to go on usual walks and have our straightforward pace and not stop for anything, that is really hard for a guardian breed, because they need time to just watch stuff and process stuff, especially if they are a little insecure or have issues with something like other dogs. Very often, if they get to watch the other dog from a distance they are comfortable in, they have a lot easier time than if we just try to do a very active training like we would with a herding breed, for example. And since our dogs are scavengers by nature, and kind of predators, but again, it depends on the breed and on the history. Because free roaming dogs are really more scavengers than hunters. What we made out of them with our pure breeding, function breeding stuff is more of a hunter. But that doesn't mean that they don't enjoy scavenging, right? Because it's their nature. So we can also include scavenging in our activities, and it works perfectly to make our dogs tired. So scatter feeding, for example, would be something that brings out the scavenger in our dogs. And also various search games. They are kind of a little bit of a combination between scavenging and hunting. And another thing that is almost purely scavenging is if we do sniffing boxes. So we just take cardboard boxes, and we almost always have those lying around somewhere, or we can collect them. They are just trash for us. But for our dogs, they can be a perfect scavenging game. We just take them, put some treats in, and then we put them all over our house, and our dogs can go look for them, they can rip them apart, and get the treats out. So this is something we can do with, even if we don't have much time, and we need our dogs to occupy themselves. They can do that with that. Alright? So to find out the personal needs of our dogs, we just have to watch them. We have to watch what they are doing when we are not intervening. So, what are their hobbies? What do they like to do when nobody's watching? And we can use that for either rewards or for just activities. Just giving them something to do, making them tired and happy and relaxed in our day-to-day life, right? Because a happy and fulfilled dog is really less likely to cause any problems. And for our fearful dogs, all of these things increase their confidence. And that, again, reduces the probability of problems in our day-to-day life. So there is no downside to this. What I like to do is mix it up a bit, so things that the dogs can do on their own and things they can do with their people. And sometimes we also use it to counteract the breed a little bit. So for livestock guardian breeds, for example, who are not really dependent on humans normally, we do more stuff together to create a sense of team and to make the dogs want to do stuff with us because it's fun, right? But also give them something to do on their own. And for clingy breeds, that sounds a bit unfriendly, but there are breeds who are really bred to work very closely with a human, or to even stay by the human side all the time because the humans wanted that. Like some small dogs, for example. And for those, I like to do more stuff they can do on their own. So they get a feeling of being able to do stuff on their own, right? I had a dog in training who he had no solutions for any kind of problems except bark at his owner to solve it for him. And I'm sure you can imagine that can get really annoying really fast. So he got tiny little problems to solve all by himself so that he gets a feeling of being able to do that. In the beginning, when he dropped a bone off the couch, he had no solution for that. He would not get the idea to get off the couch, take the bone, and jump back up. That was just not a possibility for him. And so we had to start really small with really tiny problems he could solve on his own. And we started with some snuffle boxes. And he enjoyed that. And more he got a sense of being able to do things on his own. And that increased his confidence as well as relieved his owner a lot. Because it's tough when your dog needs you for every little thing, right? So why don't you tell me in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or via email what your dog loves doing, and if you have implemented this as an activity, either together or for himself. I would love to read those. I will answer every single one of them. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share the episode with anybody struggling with their dogs. That said, have a lot of fun with your dog and your activities together or watching him do it by himself. And we'll see each other next time. Bye!